Good evening. This is the Bike Pet Commission meeting. Today is October 16th, 2024. And I call the meeting to order at 7:14 and ask staff to take roll call, please.
Thank you. Commissioner Ganga,
Aye.
Commissioner John,
Aye.
Chair Murphy, Vice Chair Wolf.
Aye.
Okay, we have a quorum with Chair Murphy absent.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the August 21st, 2024 Bike Pet Commission meeting. So the recommended action is to approve the minutes. Do I have any clarifying questions or comments regarding the August 21st, 2024 minutes? Are there any public speakers regarding the minutes?
No public speaker cards for minutes.
Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
Yes. I was on there. You did.
Okay, so I can propose to approve the minutes, but I think we still. Is it good enough for you to move forward, or do we need to?
The quorum of the,
That's correct. You just need
The quorum of the current, yeah, so I think it should be fine.
Yeah.
So you can second.
I second.
And just so you know, Grace, even though she didn't attend the meeting, she can still vote to approve the minutes.
Yeah, I because I
Make sure to recuse yourself.
so
Joel, you seconded?
yeah.
Could you proceed with a roll call?
yes, for approval of the August 21st, 2024 minutes, I can vote Commissioner Ganga,
Yes,
Vice Chair Wolf,
Yes,
Commissioner John,
Yes.
motion passes.
thank you. The next item are postponements. Are there any postponements?
Note this one.
And moving on to oral communications. Do we have any public speakers? Yeah, just let me read that this portion of the meeting is reserved for meeting persons wishing to address the commission on any matter within the jurisdiction of the commission that is not on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes.
You do have one speaker card?
We have one speaker. It's Emily Niamdava.
Yeah.
Emily, you have 3 minutes.
Emily, if you could come over here. Please?
And
Yeah, that'd be.
you can go ahead.
You're good.
Hi, so on the road, I in Barcelona, the road that goes from Cupertino High School to Creekside. There's a lot of people have mentioned how the bikers are always like in a rush to go home or like, like after school. So then they will kind of like swerve through the road without kind of thinking how that there are cars and like how it's also really dangerous because one of them might get hit or like hit another car. They've been kind of carefree about where they're biking. We thought that maybe adding a bike lane might help them kind of bike safer, and it's also safer for the cars as well. That's it. Yeah.
Thank you. So there are no more public speakers. I now close the public comment period for this agenda item. And then we move on to written communications. Has staff received any written communications?
No.
Oh, we have. And there are no public speakers on this item.
I have not received any speaker cards.
So then, close item and move on to old business. Is there any old business? There's no old business. Now we're moving on to the new business, which is one item. The subject is the Rodriguez Avenue Bicycle and Pedestrian Safety item. And the recommended action is discuss the bicycle and pedestrian travel data and potential safety enhancements along Rodriguez Avenue. So I invite staff to make the presentation.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Let's share my screen.
I just wanted to make a statement before you get started on this agenda item. So I live in a segment of the Ragnar Creek Trail, which close proximity to the Ragnar Creek Trail, but it's not where Rodriguez Avenue is. I just wanted to disclose that to the public. And, yeah.
Okay, good evening, members of the commission. Tonight, my first item, or my only item, Rodriguez Avenue bicycle and pedestrian safety enhancements. This is a return of this subject from discussions that have occurred previously with city council and with the bicycle pedestrian commission. This is the background and timeline of those discussions and meetings that have occurred. This is the same slide that I showed back in April when I met with the commission and we discussed this topic. So you've seen this timeline before, but the only addition being the last bullet point, which notes the most recent discussion, which was the April 17th, 2024 GPC meeting where staff provided an update and informed the bike commission that we were going to be forming some data collection imminently and doing some evaluation of Rodriguez Board. This is, of course, in relation to concerns about increased bicycle and pedestrian travel along and across Rodriguez with respect to the recent opening of last year, opening of the Ragnar Creek Trail. So just you've seen this slide before. This is an overview of the segment in question. This is Rodriguez Avenue here. The Ragnar Creek Trail, north is up. Ragnar Creek Trail comes up from behind City Hall parking lot. There's an access point, a trailhead for the Ragnar Creek Trail at Rodriguez right here. And then the trail heads eastward towards Blaney. There's also an access point to the Ragnar Creek Trail along this easement between at the Campo de Lozano subdivision right here. So you can enter the trail here from Rodriguez here or from Rodriguez here. Staff had provided some information related to prospective locations of crosswalks at these areas. I presented information about site visibility, crossing the street at those locations. I won't be reviewing that in that level of detail this evening. But what I will talk about efforts since we last met, as I mentioned at the last meeting, staff was going to be performing data collection in the area. So this is a summary of the data that was collected. This was done, I don't recall the exact date, but it was done during a school day during good weather so that we could get an accurate representation of trail usage. So we collected a variety of data, including usage along the trail itself, jaywalking across Rodriguez by trail users, vehicle volumes, and speeds along Rodriguez. So the locations here where we collected the data, location A was a video counter where we collected information about number of pedestrians and bicycles that were entering and exiting the trail, as well as those that would have crossed Rodriguez mid-block somewhere in this vicinity. Did the same thing up at location B where this trailhead is. And the counts were done on a single day between 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. So we had a full 16 hours of data. In addition, at location C, which was along the trail, we just collected data about number of bikes and pets that were using the trail at that location. Additionally, we collected information about vehicles. So at D up here and E down here, we collected 72 hours of volume and speed data. So here is the summary of the trail volume count data that we collected. So what we've shown, we actually had 2 days of data collected. One was on a weekday, a Thursday, and the other was on a Saturday of the same week back in May. So what this shows is the entrance, the data that's under entrance tells you the number of people that entered and left the trail at that location. So either they're walking towards the trail or they're coming from the trail. Whether they're walking southbound toward the trail or northbound from the trail. The total for both pedestrians and bicycles. And then same data down here for this entrance at this location. Additionally, we counted jaywalkers, both pedestrians and bicycles. Similarly, southbound, northbound, so if they're crossing south towards the trail or northbound away from the trail, that data is reflected here. Totals for pedestrians and bicyclists. So you can see actually there were a fair number of people that are crossing the street mid-block at these locations. And they were, pedestrian bikes were included if they crossed sort of anywhere in this general vicinity. They didn't have to be directly at the trailhead. So as long as our cameras that we had out there captured them, they would have been included. And then down here, just the number of people that were walking along the trail, since there's no trailhead there, eastbound and westbound counts. I was impressed by these numbers. 500, 400 people over the course of a single day using the trail. So it's a very popular trail.
500?
500 total, yeah, in one day. So the trail is a success. I'm happy to report, please. So that's the pedestrian data, and then the next slide, I have the vehicle data that we counted. So as I mentioned, what we did is we placed hoses across the street at both of these locations, and the hoses are able to capture both volumes and speeds of vehicles in both directions of traffic. We did that for 72 consecutive hours. The values that are reflected here are the 85th percentile speeds. So for both eastbound and westbound, our 85th percentile speeds are 33 miles an hour at this location, and they are very similar at this location, 33 or 34 miles an hour. Speed limit's 30. Second report, yes. And then the volumes eastbound and westbound are reflected here. The 1771 and 1450, those are average volumes for each day, not a total of 3 days. I just want to note that these speeds are for informational purposes only. We can't use speeds determined through host counts to establish speed limits. That has to be done through an engineering and traffic survey, which requires the use of a radar gun and some other evaluations as part of that. But these are a good indication of what the exposure of gust speeds would likely be if you go out there with the radar gun and determine traffic patterns. So at the April commission meeting, when I presented this item, we informed the commission that we were going to collect data and evaluate the need for improvements. And the things that we were going to consider were these items, whether there are any documented safety concerns along the corridor, the patterns of trail usage, any public input, bike constraints, experiences relayed to us by the sheriff and guidance from the MUTCD, which is Manual Uniform Traffic Control Devices, and the California Vehicle Code relating to pedestrian safety improvements and the setting of speed limits. So I'll go through each of those in turn. First item, documented safety concerns. So along Rodriguez, there have been no bicycle or pedestrian related safety concerns documented since the opening of the regular trail. The accident record is silent on any bike or ped related accidents. There's only been one accident period, which was not related to bike or ped, and it was a driving under the influence accident where driver hit several parked cars on Rodriguez. That was near the trailhead that goes through the easement by Compo was on. Trail usage, that was summarized in the slides that I just shown you with the pedestrian and bicycle trails. Public input, so we have not received any public input related to bicycle or pedestrian related concerns outside of what we've heard at previous commission meetings here. Site constraints, so as I mentioned at previous meetings, there are horizontal curves that limit site visibility at that location. This is referring to discussions about prospective mid-block crosswalks that were recommended along the roads. There are horizontal curves that limit site visibility. Just to summarize that discussion, we would be able to provide a bare minimum highway design manual site distance if we were to put in a mid-block crosswalk, but it would be the minimum. As far as addressing bicycle safety, because we have on-street parking along the eastern and the western segments of Rodriguez, that does limit the availability to provide a buffer space for bicycles between the bike lane and the vehicle lanes. However, we are able to do that around the reverse curve because there's no parking in that location, and there is a two-way left turn median lane in that area that, if it is narrowed, would provide some additional space for a buffer for bikes, and that the little drawing will show you that area in a moment. Continuing on our data collection, I spoke to the county sheriff and they confirmed what I determined from looking at the documented problems, that they have not been made aware of any safety issues related to bicycles or pedestrians along Rodriguez. Finally, MUTCD and CDC guidance and requirements relating to safety improvements and setting of speed limits. So keeping in mind that despite the lack of a documented safety problem or any concerns noted by sheriffs, there is a desire to improve safety to the extent that we can and address vehicle speeds along Rodriguez, try to calm traffic just because of the proximity of the trail, that there is a toolbox of options, including signage and striping, that we can use to help calm traffic. And as well, we can do a revision of the speed limit for the new laws set out in Assembly Bill 403. And I can get into those a little bit here. So to wrap it up, our recommendation tonight, staff's recommendation, is that we do not install any mid-block crosswalks at the trailheads. Reasons being that there's no documented safety. There's no problem that needs fixing. Currently, the jaywalking pedestrians, and there are quite a few, as you saw from the data, actually more than I thought there would be. There's a lot of people who do cross. But in the absence of a mid-block crosswalk, they wait and they cross cautiously, which is what we want pedestrians to do before they cross the street. So that's the desirable behavior. By installing a crosswalk at either of those two locations, there's the potential that we would actually create a problem because generally crosswalks, especially big block crosswalks, invite complacency on the parts of pedestrians, especially many of the pedestrians there, maybe grade school kids that would see the crosswalk and expect vehicles to yield to them, which of course is not necessarily the case. Without the crosswalk, they're a lot less likely to just walk in the street and they will make sure it's safe before it's crossing. And again, the experience over the past couple of years out there confirms that, and we have not had any incidents. So we recommend that we don't install any block crosswalks. We do recommend though, or we can, if the commission desired, install buffered bike lanes around the curve. And I'll show you the area I'm talking about here. So I've highlighted in yellow. This is the area where we would be able to provide about a 2 foot, 2, maybe 3 foot buffer between the bike lane and the vehicle lanes. And this is an area that there, I would say, could use some improvement from a safety standpoint for bicyclists, because as cars go around the curve, some of them do tend to encroach a little bit into the bike lane as they cut the corner. So providing a little bit of a buffer space for those bikes as they come around this in both directions, I think would be a benefit for the bicyclists. Again, there is a 2-way left turn lane. You can't really see it on the arrow here, but there's a 2-way left turn lane here that's about 10 feet wide that cars that are turning left into this driveway here use that to get out of traffic before turning left. So we would have to narrow the center lane to about 4 feet, which would preclude its use as a 2-way left turn lane. So cars making a left turn into or out of the driveway would have to do so from the vehicle lane. I don't see that as being a concern. Some of you may remember 15 years ago, we also had a 2-way left turn lane further down here by the city hall driveway that was used by cars turning in and out of the driveway. We eliminated that in order to provide the bike lanes through here, and it hasn't been a problem to my observations eliminating that center lane. So I don't foresee any issues here. So that would provide a bit of efficiency. We do have the opportunity to do that very soon if the commission likes. We have a repaving that's going to be happening Rodriguez this year. John mentioned it can be done this year. That we could take care of that in the next few months when the work is done. Back to the recommendation. So some things that come out of the MUTC. Speed reduction markings. I don't know if you've seen these in the field. You don't see them very often, but these little white ticks that are along the road right here. Apparently those work by providing a visual illusion that because these marks are placed closer together as you proceed along the street, it gives the illusion to drivers that their speed is increasing. So it tends to result in the driver slowing down a bit as they proceed along. So this is something I'd be happy to try out on Rodriguez to slow drivers as they approach the trailheads or the curves. Another thing would be a radar speed feedback sign for both directions, as well as some general warning signs like this, which kind of which gives the information to the drivers that, you know, to expect pedestrians or bicyclists in the area. It doesn't indicate a crosswalk. There's supplemental signage that would be put if there was a crosswalk, but we are able to do a general warning sign like this. It just has people, you know, be mindful of the environment. And then again, we can reevaluate the speed limit for potential reduction for AB 43. And as I mentioned, the speed limit is 30 now. I can't make any guarantees, but it's likely that if we were to reevaluate it, given what we're allowed to do with the assembly bill, that we could justify a 25 mile an hour speed limit And then post that along with, radar feedback sign that would give a warning to drivers exceeded 25 miles. And I think providing these speed reduction markings and from the bike lane would help to naturally calm traffic as well. So it would likely bring those 80-50 percentile speeds down a bit, even before the speed limit is adjusted. That'll help us justify the lower speed limit. So that concludes my recommendations, and that. Happy to take questions from the commission.
Thank you, David. Are there any clarifying questions?
Yeah, I have a question, like, do you also take the count of the bikers eastbound and westbound on Rodriguez? I saw the cars, you had cars on.
No. Yeah, we did not count the bicycles along Rodriguez.
But it's a video, you might be having the recording, we should be able to.
Yeah, it would take some time because you have to watch it by, person has to watch it and count it. So we would have the information on the video. But we didn't collect the data. Yeah, we can't do it with the tubes because the tubes can't distinguish between the cars and the bikes. So, but we could go back and watch the video if we were to get that information.
Thank you. There's the other questions.
No,
So I have a question regarding, so how is the data collected? Is it all done through video then? Is it,
The pedestrian, the trail data was all done through, so there were video cameras that were placed at the trailheads and along the trail. And it recorded continuously for 16 hours. And then an employee of the account firm watches the video and notes down the number of pedestrians, bicyclists that are using the trail. That's how we collect the data.
how many hours of
It was
video?
16 hours on Thursday and 16 hours on Saturday. The vehicle data was done automatically through pneumatic hoses that were placed across the street, and that's no live people are involved in compiling that data.
so that's where you see those hoses laid across the road and then that you get the speed.
Yeah, if there's one hose, you just get volumes. If you get two hoses, then it kind of counts the amount of time the tire hits the first hose, and the tire hits the second hose, and so they use the hose for.
Is that only done at one location then, or?
No, it's done at the two locations, the D and E.
Like that data you can't use for, if you did a speed limit survey, speed limit analysis, you can't use that data.
We cannot do it. Yep. Cannot be used to set a speed limit that is enforceable, yes. But we did do citywide speed limit. Set speed limit citywide back in 2019. We do have data from the 2019 engineering traffic study. So we could potentially go back and using that data, reevaluate the speed limit based upon the new criteria from AP 43. And then we could also potentially go back. We could take new data, new radar data also. If that doesn't work out very well, and see if we can, speeds are lower than they were back in 2019 based upon some of these improvements that I suggested.
I guess, one question, is that data available then? The data that you collected, is that like the distribution of that data?
Mhm.
Is something we could get?
Mhm.
Sorry, any more clarifying questions?
No, I just feel like at the end, the recommendation is more around reducing speed and having buffered bike lanes, which we have been always talking about, But what's the projected, implementation? We haven't implemented anything, so what's our plan around that?
So the plan is, as I mentioned, was to do the striping improvements, the speed reduction markings, the greater speed feedback sign, the speed limit evaluation, and the other signage, and get calm traffic. And the buffered bike lanes. So that by calming traffic, providing buffered bike lanes, and enhances safety for the drivers, for the bicycles, for the pedestrians as well.
Okay, I will have additional comments during the discussions, Alicia. Thank you.
Are there any public comments? If not, then I will open it up to the commission for general discussion.
Yeah, so few things I have, in general, I'll come back to the bicycle facilities selection, especially regarding the buffered bike lane, because there were previous discussions on this topic. The main concern I'm seeing is the pedestrian crossing across Rodriguez is the main primary concern, and the feel, and also the visibility for the automobile, drivers, that they may not be able to see the pedestrians, and how do we mitigate that issue? So one of the things, it's also possible that just before the curvature, right, you can have a speed table on either side of that, that could also reduce, like the one that you have on Price Avenue. You could have like, Price has like 3 or 4 locations, I believe, right? At the entry of on either side as well as in between. So something similar to that, it's possible to do it. Would that be beneficial?
We could consider a speed table. We would want to complete the speed limit reduction first. So bring it down from 30 to 25 miles an hour, because we wouldn't want to put a speed table on the street that's 30 miles.
Makes sense.
But if we can get it down to 25, then I'd be happy to consider a speed table.
Okay. And then the other thing is like, you're saying that if we go with the reducing the left turn to one of those residential community, I think it's good to inform the residents and more proactively informing the resident to seek feedback. All right, and of course, we can debate here and then make the right recommendations, but at least we need to give an opportunity for the residents to do that, because most of them don't necessarily watch what's on the agenda in the bicycle commission meeting, right? So that's the one thing I would say, because we don't want to surprise them, and later on you might hear feedback after the fact. We do any improvements there. So it's good to bring along the community with the solution. And then I think even rest of the suggestions that you have made are good. So one thing I've seen is in the past, whenever this issue comes up, we talk about what should be the right bicycle lanes that we should have on this Rodriguez. So I remember even the previous discussion, people were talking about buffered bike lanes, people talked about separated bike lanes and so on. So I just wanted to, if you have like 2 or 3 minutes, I would like to show, or afterwards, like maybe if you go through the discussion, I want to show the bicycle selection guide from the Federal Highway Safety Administration guidelines. So, which may be appropriate. I think I like the idea that after having a buffered bike lane only on the section that is relevant for this particular issue. Yeah. Thank you.
So I have a question regarding consideration of the flashing light. I mean, flashing, if you're crossing, wouldn't that be, I know you mentioned that you put a crosswalk in, there might be some complacency, but it's the same, what if you put a crosswalk in with a flashing light? Because what I've noticed is, like, even on Blaney Avenue where the Regnar Creek Trail crosses, is that I think drivers seem to be better at stopping now there than they were when they originally put it in. And, I mean, they're not perfect, but it's still, it seems to have improved. And something like a crosswalk with the flashing light, that, I think over, the drivers tend to develop a, familiarity with that, and then they're used to having people cross there, because I'm a little uneasy having people jaywalk personally. I mean, I do it, and I do it all the time there. I know exactly what you're talking about, but I would rather see established crossings with flashing lights, rather than have people jaywalk, and they're not gonna go down to the end of the street, I know that, to cross at the established crosswalk. It's just, that's not gonna happen. But that would be my input on that. And then those speed reduction, those little speed reduction bumps is, I just saw those, they just installed them on Canada Road in San Mateo County. So I don't know if they work. I was curious about that. But they're trying to slow traffic down out there. They didn't reduce the speed limit, but they're trying to slow, on certain sections, trying to slow the traffic down. But is there any like data on how well those work?
Not that I'm aware of. Yeah, I'm sure they will hurt. So they would either help or not do anything. But I'm not aware of any data.
And then you said that you're gonna be repaving this street soon, and it would be a good time to add the buffered bike lanes. And so what would be the next steps for the commission then? We wouldn't be looking at a recommendation this evening, or
I would accept the recommendations, even if the commission wanted to make a motion about my recommended improvements, that would be helpful.
or do we want to, I mean, my one thought is waiting till, I'd like to, because I would like to hold off on that until Chair Marcy returns, and maybe put it on next month's, just revisit it for next month's agenda.
So if the decision isn't made tonight, then what we would need to do is postpone the paving work for another year. And then it would happen in next year's.
Oh. So that it really is we have to do it tonight, or we wouldn't be able to get.
Or it'd be another year.
But that would not preclude us from establishing additional items, additional recommendations in the future regarding flashing lights. And I mean, what would be the downside of putting in flashing lights in a crosswalk?
Well, so if a mid-block crosswalk were to be installed, we would absolutely put flashing lights as part of that. So a crosswalk without lights isn't an option on the table that we would consider. But even a crosswalk with flashing lights, while safer than one without, would still potentially invite complacency, not by everybody, but by some people. And again, we're not aware of any problem currently since the 2 years we've been traveling, but there's perceptions of a problem. But in terms of actual safety problem, there's no record of any accident records or from the sheriff's department or that we've heard. People perceive it looks like it's a problem, but it's not actually a problem. And so we would only have the potential to create a problem if we were to make a significant change. So that's our position.
Is the sheriff's not ticketing? I mean, it's no longer a crime, misdemeanor to jaywalk, is that correct? But the same, do they still ticket people? They can still ticket? I mean, and just give them a warning, or just give
The pedestrian or the car?
the jaywalker, somebody who's,
I don't know. Actually, I mean, a driver is still legally required to yield to a pedestrian.
even not at a crosswalk.
I believe so. But I don't know if the sheriffs are actively citing.
So then we would be looking at, tonight, we would be looking at putting in this, I call them speed reduction bumps, or what are their
The markings.
markings. And we'd be looking at a buffered bike lane on that horizontal curve. And
Speed table.
then what is, are those the two items that?
And the radar speed feedback sign,
Radar speed feedback sign.
the yellow warning sign, and a reevaluation posting of a lower speed limit if justified.
Oh, I for one would like to, see, I mean, I think these are improvements, so I wouldn't want to wait a year. I would like to see it move forward this evening then with those four items. And if we have a,
Let's, I think I have some more points and then we can come back to the recommendations. Right, I just have to, just for one point, I sent you an email. So that I can make a comment while you project those 2 pages. Yes, this guy, this is a guide for the bicycle, facilities selection, especially for improving the safety, right? So you can go to page 22. And mainly I want to talk about page 23, but 22 gives kind of a process. Yep. 22.
It's here or just.
Further down, there's a flow chart there on page number 22 on the printed sheet. Yeah.
Okay.
2 more pages. Yeah. So this one, so can you please show the flow chart? The chart, just below, yeah. Yeah, so this kind of gives you an idea of like, this is a recommendation for the bicycle or a bike pace selection guide, right? Of course, the city, different cities can have different policies, but the key idea is like, I'll come to the next slide, that's what is the subject of this discussion. But our city can also establish similar policy, and different cities establish similar policies to make recommendation for their bicycle facility selection. In this case, like, in the past, we have had comments saying that, okay, class 2 bike lane is good enough, or, buffered bike lane, you need to do this, or no, you have to do a separated bike lane for, feel the perception of safety and things like that. But you can't apply, once, it's not like one size fits all, like as, staff have done the studies and come up with a recommendation as to see what makes sense for this particular location. And that's kind of the kind of policies which we could establish as well. And if you go to the next slide. And we saw when David came up with the data from the study, right? Maybe you can zoom down so that we can see the whole chart. Is it possible to zoom it down? So, okay, so that's fine. So the point here is on the x-axis, you are seeing the speeds, in miles per hour for that facility. And roughly for this particular street, we saw 33 miles per hour is the average, right? 85%. So on the y-axis that you're seeing the volume, right, of the vehicle per day. And what this shows is like, where do you use the shared bike lanes, like, they call this, and where do you use, kind of a class 2 bike lane, like a bike boulevard, or the other thing is like, buffered bike lane. So if you can look at it, right, the volume of the traffic, what we are talking about is up to 3K. And as long as the speed is somewhere up to like 30 miles per hour, it's okay to have a shared, bike lane. And once the volume of the traffic goes up to say 6,000, somewhere in 6,500, and the speed is about the same, which is what we are discussing, right? It's kind of similar to the facility that we are talking about. Buffered bike lane is apt for it. In this particular case, buffered bike lane is not, if it was a straight road, I don't think we would even be considering that as an option, because which is good enough for a residential kind of a lane. People or cities don't necessarily go for that as an option. And then separated bikeways are typically used for traffic when you're going for 7K and above, right? That's and even for the same, right? So I think this is the kind of a general guideline, because that way you are using the resources appropriately for providing safety. Because the cost of making separated bikeway, you could go and improve the safety of, several different city streets, or many different, I would say, city streets. So that's the kind of an idea. So this is some guideline that we could use. And one of the things is this is an exception in this case, but even if you had a policy like this, for this particular case where you are not able to have the automobiles and drivers are not able to have better visibility, it's good to have this buffered bike lane, so that kind of gives a safer margin and also we have space here. So it's possible for us to do this. And so I would definitely recommend in those sections to go ahead with the buffered bike lane and not overdo things.
Separated.
Yeah.
Right, so the proposal is just on that horizontal curve for the buffered bike lane, right?
Yeah, because of the parked cars, we can't do the other segments.
And for the rest of the segment, we already have class 2 in there, so bike lanes in there throughout the road. Yeah. That's it.
Thank you.
I would for buffered bike lane. Because, and that's the recommendation.
Buffered bike.
Yeah.
So I would recommend that we then put together a motion for.
Yeah, let's bring back the recommendations, and if you wanted to have any modifications or changes to those recommendations,
Yes.
and then we can discuss that,
Yes.
and then move forward with the motion.
But would you like me to bring my,
With the
Recommendations,
back,
yeah, you had those 4, yeah, we'd like to go back.
Sure.
They're not there with this, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, kind of starting up that, so my question, David, is like, if you have a mid-block crossing, at least in one of the locations where the closer to the city hall, right? For the drivers coming from, east to westbound, right? Would they be able to see that there's, flashing lights? I remember, the vice chair was asking for, would we be, installing some kind of flashing lights there? Would the drivers will be able to see it, or will they will see it only after they come closer to the, crosswalk? If we go ahead with that option.
if we install a mid-block crosswalk?
Yeah, exactly. Mid-block crosswalk with the flashing lights.
I think it would be challenging for them to see the lights on the south side of Rodriguez
Okay.
until they were close to.
Close, then that may not be as effective. Where I'm going with this one is, it's good to warn them before they get into that, curve, right? So that they can slow down and they have good visibility, even if, some pedestrians are crossing them.
Before taking the right.
Right.
But at this point, we're not, it's not in,
That's not, because you brought up that point, and I just wanted to clarify that,
Clarify.
yeah, would that help or it would not necessarily help, right? So,
They're saying south visibility is gonna be a issue, right?
yeah, the westbound, right,
Yeah.
visibility will not be good, and you'll be surprising the driver as opposed to, figure, we need to have speed mitigation measures even before they get into the curve. That would help. And that, I think we already have a recommendation for that, right? So, And
I put it already.
would you be taking up to the city council, because this was requested by the council? So which means that whatever recommendation that we make, would you give an update to the council or send them by email, or how would we?
We give an update to council. Probably wouldn't take it as an action item, council, but we would provide a memo to council.
Council, okay.
and. But there would be a plan that you would show before, if we went up, it's going out to bid soon, it sounds like,
Well, so it's not going out to bid. We have a pavement project. Our annual pavement maintenance project is happening very soon. And so as part of that, they put back striping after the road is repaved. So we will be able to incorporate these striping changes into that project as part of the striping subcontract. So
I believe that project's already been bid. And getting ready to start, which is what we make decisions.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're ready to pay pretty much. So. Yeah, so that would be done within the budget of that paving project. The radar speed feedback sign would come out of our traffic engineering budget. And then the speed limit reduction study.
so you
would
got
also come out of our traffic engineering.
one or more radar feedback signs, or is it?
But one in each direction.
One in each.
Yeah, so we would plan.
So there will be markings, these are the optical illusion that is that the?
Yeah, the markings and then the buffered for the bike lanes.
And the SFS assembly on both sides.
And right,
You said the SFS assembly,
both sides. Yeah.
both sides, okay.
Yeah.
And the warning signs, okay.
If a crosswalk were going to be installed, that actually would require a budget adjustment, and it would be a much longer term project, because that would be about $40,000 per crosswalk between striping, flashing lights, upgrading or supplying 88 bike curb ramps. So significant, it would be a significant project.
And the speed reduction markings, those are gonna go along the entire length of the.
They will be, well, so they have to be done in a discrete segment in order to be effective. So it would be on the, I'd have to go out to the site and determine where they would be most effective. But my thoughts is it would be as you approach the trailhead coming eastbound. But it can't be too close to the stop sign. You want to give cars a chance to move forward before, otherwise they're not effective. So it would probably be on the approach, more or less the approach to the curves on both directions, which aligns pretty closely with where the trailheads. Let's see if I can.
I think we don't have to wait for a perfect solution, because anything is better than what we have right now.
Yes.
And so we can start improving the safety now with what's possible, and then keep observing.
We'll use our best engineering judgment as far as spacing of the markings on the sides.
So, any further comments on this motion?
No, only thing I have is, like, I think we are already making the recommendation to the council, so one how do we inform the residents in that community, one specific location, right?
We can reach out to the residents. There's probably a homeowners association that can help get
Oh,
the
that'll be-
information disseminated to residents.
Okay.
So I would recommend, saying, taking out where not install, I don't think you need to say that, because that may be something you may consider down in the future. Installation of bid block crosswalk.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fine. We probably want to remove the recommended city council. Just recommend that staff make the following improvements. Or,
And also you can say that inform the city council as well,
and in the forms.
and then inform the city council.
Can do both.
Before making the improvements. Yeah,
Make the following improvements. I would put Rodriguez Avenue. City council.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, it's fine. Solid upward like, yeah, so.
And you want to include to reevaluate the speed limit,
What's that?
Yeah,
include a reevaluation of the speed limit.
yes,
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 per AB 43.
yes, definitely.
Okay. But that is specifically for your warnings, or the SFS assembly you might need to update it, right? Or,
Yeah, I mean, we can do the SFS assembly anyway, with the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, but to the extent that post 25.
your point is you want to reevaluate to see whether it can be posted as 25, right?
So that will also include the speed tables,
Not at this,
Not up.
you know?
that's, we can come back and reevaluate that. If we can.
I think if drivers are slowing down, looking at those, signs, then that would help as well. If it doesn't work, then I think we should go back to installing the speed table. But we don't have to wait for that, making this improvement as.
Yes, absolutely. I would like to have that though.
Yeah, I have the same,
Yeah.
but I think for now. We don't have to wait for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we,
Yeah, I can propose, this motion.
I can second it.
do we need to read the motion? Or just,
I'll need to take a vote.
so the motion is, for Commissioner Ganja moved, seconded by Commissioner John to recommend that staff make the following improvements on Rodriguez Avenue, inform the city council to, one, install buffered bike lane around the curve on Rodriguez Avenue. Two, install speed reduction markings, SFF assembly and warning signs, and three, reevaluation of the speed limit per Assembly Bill 43. David, you want to take a vote?
Okay, on, motion on the screen, how do you vote? Commissioner Gonga?
Yes.
Vice Chair Wolf?
Yes.
Commissioner John?
Yes.
Motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the report are staff and commission reports. Does the staff have any reports?
Yeah, I have a couple reports. I'd like to report that at the October 1st City Council, approved the form second reading of the ordinance to private parking on Vista Drive adjacent to Lawson Middle School, which was the final step needed for to allow staff to move forward with the 2A on street class 4 bike lane that was recently recommended for approval by the city council and by the bike commission. So we are now working on the drawings for that. We anticipate constructing that later this calendar year or early next.
Are there any commissioner reports?
We could talk about the bike fest, right? So I think it was maybe, but you could give an update as well.
Yeah, well, I understand the Bike Fest was very successful. I was there. Commissioner Ganja was there and we were both on the short ride. I think there was 200+ riders on the short ride. It was, actually, I was on the long ride last year and I enjoyed the short ride a lot more this year, so. But, I think it was quite a success and I think, I think we've had good feedback from regarding how well the entire festival went. It's probably the most successful bike festival in the South Bay, from what I hear. So,
Thanks to everybody who
Yeah.
participated. Thanks to you all, yeah.
Just a-
500 to 550 from our best guess, total participants,
Mhm.
which is on par with what we had last year.
Yeah, we had the long ride as well as I was also part of the family ride, which was just very successful. And I think it's good idea to hire the professionals who are able to manage that event, especially that ride and with the music, and it was more festive. Yeah. I think there were additional improvements that could be made next year, and we did discuss that offline on the separate email thread, and I think those kind of things can be considered for next year as well.
Does anybody have anything else outside?
No, I don't have anything else.
See, the next item on the agenda is the future agenda items. And, Kim, could you bring up that list?
Yeah, I have a request to bring up the students made a comment about the kayak in Barcelona, like having a bicycle lane. So maybe something that we can bring up as a future agenda.
Okay, we're go under.
I don't know what we will do, but in general for discussion purposes, to see.
That's separate from the stop sign issue, it's the,
We already had kayak in Barcelona on one of the items, right? Did we?
thought there was.
I think so there was.
I did a search of the whole document.
Maybe not.
Should add it then.
That could be a miscellaneous item, so I think that fine. Depending on what else is there, the chair and staff can decide when to implement it.
So I have an issue, I think a possible addition to the future agenda items regarding the Mary Avenue corridor. Fuller's And I don't know how something maybe the commission can address in the future, but when I ride that, what I've noticed is, and maybe it's because there's a lot of construction going on there, that people, many times they park right on the buffer and sometimes into the bike lane. And I've noticed some of them, recently, somebody had actually almost parallel parked between the bollards. And then they had laid over one of the bollards and he just actually was all, at a 45-degree angle. It actually, I think, survived, but.
This is on, this is on Mary.
Yes, that's on Mary. So I noticed, and then I noticed that one, in addition, has been already, the base is there, but the bollard is gone. So I don't know if people don't understand, how this is supposed to work, but, and sometimes even a food truck will be there and all the workers will be in the bike lane, but that's because there's construction. So they park a food truck over on the buffer between the bollards. And so I thought that should be an issue that we should look at in the future. I don't know if you could, something like installing, looking at installation of additional bollards with that. But that's, I think, they seem not to understand how that's supposed to work. I mean, it's, and I don't know if that problem has arisen elsewhere, but I think it's a good item to talk about. Is anybody, any further comments on the future agenda item?
No.
If not, do we have any public comments on the future agenda item? With that, I forgot to ask them. No? Well, if there are no further comments, then this meeting is adjourned at 8:21 PM.